Ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again to the Packernet Podcast. I am your host and resident fanalist, as always, Ryan Schlipp. Check us out online, packernet.com. Find me on Twitter, pack_daddy. Well, that's freaking weird. Just getting ready for the podcast, everything rock and rolling, and just hear screaming, which is normal in this house. They're just screaming, and everyone's just going nuts. My wife's screaming, and I don't know, something exciting is happening. Who knows? And then I think I hear something that sounds like my name and help and dead bunny something. And my daughter has a bunny and we have a cat. So I thought, oh, this could be bad. Well, it turns out our stupid cat grabbed a bunny and just dragged it straight into our house. And then the bunny got free. And so we got a bunny bouncing around our house and then a cat chasing the bunny. And long story short, I think everyone's fine. I was able to corral the cat, throw the stupid thing in the garage, get the bunny, put him outside. He seemed paralyzed with fear for a moment, and then was like, "You know what? I'm gonna get out of here," and just booked it. I'm like, "All right, I think we're good." Did not expect today to be chasing bunnies around my house, but that's what happened. My son is like live streaming it to his friends. Like, check it out, I got a bunny in my house. Dude, get out of here, will you? We put a bell on the cat's collar so it's not going around like killing stuff. Well, I don't know, man. He's just too gifted at it. I don't know what to tell you, but it'd be cool if he didn't just grab it and be like, "Look, guys, I brought a bunny into the house." Stupid idiot. Oh, all right. Well, hello, everybody. Today I want to get caught up on some of the news and stuff. We've been weaving and doing all kinds of crazy stuff, and so I want to kind of get caught up on where we're at. Obviously, there's some injury news and stuff we got to get caught up on, a couple roster changes, and we'll see where that leaves us. Well, I guess we'll start with this. There's not a ton of just general NFL news, but the Steelers and cornerback Darius Slay have mutually agreed to part ways. Slay's agent, Drew Rosenhaus, and Robert Bailey told ESPN. Slay is interested in continuing to play and will consider signing with other teams, but his time in Pittsburgh has come to an end. Now, aside from this just being of general interest, because Darius Slay is a big name, and obviously a lot of people know who he is, and the fact that I'm guessing most Packer fans, or at least a good portion of them, are still of the belief that we need cornerback help, I thought it would be worth at least addressing. Let me at least start here. Darius Slay, first of all, obviously he was a big deal a long time ago. I mean, it's one of those things, too. It's not that he's being massively hyped up online right now or anything, but it's one of those things where people just remember the name and they're like, ooh, that guy's really good. He was kind of a big deal when he was with Detroit. And he kind of like was in his peak around 2016, 2017. His range was like 2015 to 2018 with Detroit. Then he went with Philly. It was kind of up and down. 2021 was good. 2022 was decent. Not so much 2023. 2024 was decent. 2025 he's with Pittsburgh. Again, at least I think he said this, 35 years old. 35 years old, 58 PFF grade, 54 run defense, 50 tackling, 58.6 coverage grade. It hasn't been fantastic. Now, maybe it's just because it's Pittsburgh and their scheme isn't really working very well. Again, 2024 in Philly, it was actually decent. Maybe there's a little bit something left as far as the juice. Now, should we be interested in Darius Slay? Here's what I would say as far as why I would be somewhat interested in it. It's not because I think he's a great football player and that he can come in and help us win a Super Bowl. I don't really think he should start, which is where it's going to be a tough selling point to try to get him in here because obviously he wants to go to number one, a contender, and number two, I'm sure he wants to start and not sit on the bench. I don't know that he comes in. Maybe you could phrase it in terms of he's going to come in and be a depth piece or compete. And if he wins, he wins. That's fine. I don't care. Obviously, this would be something that would be like if I legitimately was going to answer this question as the GM, I'd want to talk to the defensive coordinator and see, is this a good scheme fit kind of a thing. However, I don't think it would be terrible for an extremely young football team to get a 35-year-old veteran who just was on the Super Bowl winning Philadelphia Eagles football team. That's really the biggest selling point for me. A veteran that can come in, that understands what it takes, what it looks like, what it feels like, what it sounds like, smells like, whatever. To come in and infuse a little bit of that. To come in and be the old guy to essentially say, someday this thing is going to be over. And you're not going to get that many swings at it. You can't waste this opportunity. You can't squander this opportunity. For all you know, this is the last time you'll ever get to the playoffs. You never know what's going to happen. Some of you guys could end up getting traded to the freaking Browns and you'll never sniff a playoff for the rest of your life. You don't know what's going to happen in the future. You could get injured. Your quarterback could get injured. You could lose your coach and then everything just spirals out of control. You get a bad coach, whatever. You don't know. So that would be the biggest selling point. On top of, maybe he can come in. And there have been injuries. I mean, Hobbs has been out since forever. Not that I really want him starting anyways. But we saw Keyshawn get injured. And if you have a veteran piece like Slay that can come in and be like, I got this, and be a decent depth piece that potentially could be a starting piece. The other thing that sucks is they're going to put him in instead of Valentine. They're not going to kick Keyshawn Nixon out, which is probably what they should do. And this strangely segues us into some Minnesota Vikings news because as a sort of corresponding move, is kind of just similar timing, but we'll call it a corresponding move. Pittsburgh Steelers claimed off of waivers wide receiver Adam Thielen. Well, wait a minute. How can you claim Adam Thielen? I thought he was a Viking. Yes, the Vikings waived Adam Thielen. So I don't want to disparage Mr. Thielen. He's been a good receiver for a long time and whatnot, but it is a little funny. The Vikings out there looking for any amount of help. They bring back another old guy because it's just what they do. And it obviously just went pretty terribly. It was somewhat of a mutual parting because Thielen, wasn't getting any action. It's also funny because when you look at it from the other side for the Pittsburgh Steelers, I have to assume Rodgers had some say in this because you know how much he loves these old guys. I mean, he is, as much as I make fun of fans for this, I think Rodgers and a lot of players are this way too. In his mind, Adam Thielen is still, like back in my heyday, Thielen was a monster, and I always wanted to play with him, and now I can play with him, and I know he can still do it, because why wouldn't he think that? If he thought being old was a hindrance, he wouldn't be in the NFL right now. So he's excited about a veteran guy who's going to come in and be able to do blah, 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 blah. It's all just so sad. Thielen was actually a healthy scratch in Week 13, so the Vikings essentially came out and said, we're doing this out of respect for him. Because he deserves better and whatnot. And obviously they weren't wrong in assuming that there are other opportunities out there for him. Whether or not he's a healthy scratch for the Steelers will remain to be seen. But, I guess it's the right thing to do. Perhaps the right thing to do would be to not bring him back in the first place. But, you tried. He tried. Everybody tried. Doesn't look like the Vikings are trying, but believe it or not, they're trying. Which is hilarious. Speaking of, Vikings coach Kevin O'Connell said J.J. McCarthy will, quote, have an opportunity to play next week, which remains, not that injuries are funny, but it remains the funniest thing ever that they have to put on this act. It's kind of like Nate Hobbs a little bit, but much more consequential, where it's like, oh boy, yeah, he's hurt, and gee golly, do we really want him back? But, we don't want to rush him or anything, This dude gets hurt, gets a hangnail, and it's like 4 weeks later, like, what happened to your quarterback? Like, oh, yeah, we'll see. He's getting close. We're doing everything we can. Not that Max Brosmer provides anything for the Vikings. Oh, how horrible. In addition, Aaron Jones also is day-to-day. He's having some injury issues, so... we've officially, to be fair, ticked over, at least for me, to the point where I'm kind of rooting for the Vikings to start winning. Not against the Packers, obviously, but in every other instance. If they could end up picking outside of the top 10 while also being a bottom 10 team in the NFL, that's the magic right there. You know what I mean? That is the sweet spot. It's unfortunate the Bears were terrible and kept getting the number 1 overall pick. If we can get the Vikings to avoid that, that would be wonderful. Now, I don't have the Wednesday injury reports, so I don't have anything official at this point in time. According to Kevin Seifert, they opened the 21-day window for Ty Chandler. However, Christian Darrisaw, their left tackle, they are expecting him back this Sunday. Left guard Donovan Jackson not quite ready to practice, but not ruled out for the game. So a little bit of good news, I suppose, for the Vikings. Darrisaw is a big deal. Vikings, as an FYI, play Washington this week. Again, I'm probably, not that I'm not going to make fun of them when they look bad, but I'm probably going to be rooting for them. Washington is a 3-9 football team. Minnesota 4-8. They're 1.5 point favorites right now, so it's at home. Fingers crossed, man. The more games they can win, the better at this point, because the playoffs are, that's basically dead and gone. That's not going to happen. Now, beyond that, I want to talk about Detroit, because Detroit is really spiraling right now, and it's kind of beautiful to watch. This isn't going to be the laughing at the enemy episode or anything like that, although I do plan to get there eventually. Let's tentatively plan on tomorrow. But it's bad, and I'm not just talking about the attitudes of the fan base. As I've said, I just have a feeling Detroit is at home. They're 3-point favorites coming into this game. So kind of similar to not feeling good about that Philadelphia game because of the trajectory of Philadelphia. Dallas is heading in the right direction for Dallas, not for anybody that doesn't like Dallas, ourselves included. But they're headed in the right direction. Their quarterback is playing at an MVP level. Again, he does that quite frequently, and nobody cares or pays attention because Dallas is stupid and whatever. But Dak is playing really good football. Things are starting to click. Just now, I just see George Pickens, removed from the injury report, will play Week 14 against the Lions. Contrast that with all the Lions injury news. And this is the Thursday game, so they've been coming out with more and more injury reports, right? So it's Wednesday, so it's day one. So I haven't even seen the official Packers injury report or any of that kind of stuff. But just as a little reminder, they've already had some bad luck when it comes to injuries. For example, they lost Sam Laporta for the season. They put Christian Mahogany, their offensive lineman, on IR, which is not great because even though Mahogany wasn't doing well, the offensive line is not nearly as good as it was last year due to departures and things like that. And then on top of that, you lose Christian Mahogany. The biggest thing as far as IR is concerned, though, is cornerback. They lost Ennis Rakestraw to IR. They lost Terrion Arnold to IR. And they've been having injury issues with guys like DJ Reed and as well as safeties Kirby Joseph and Brian Branch. So the DBs have been pretty decimated. They also have pass rusher Josh Paschal on their NFI list. Their defensive tackle Levi and Wuzurike on the PUP list. And then coming into the week, you've got Brian Branch, Taylor Decker, their tackle, Graham Glasgow, their offensive lineman, the new center, Kirby Joseph, their safety, Sion Vaki, the running back, and Shane Zylstra, their tight end, as limited participants. And remember, Graham Glasgow is their starting offensive lineman because they were going to get Frank Ragnow back. He came back. Turns out he had some kind of a serious injury and failed the physical, and now he can't come back. In addition, their other tight end, so they lost their starting tight end. You have Shane Zylstra, who is limited. Brock Wright didn't participate with a neck injury. Terrion Arnold, obviously, did not participate with a shoulder injury. Wide receiver Khalif Raymond did not participate with an ankle injury. Wide receiver Amon-Ra St. Brown, remember he got hurt against the Packers, did not participate with an ankle injury. And so as of yesterday, even though I can't find this on the website, according to ESPN, Khalif Raymond is doubtful to play. Shane Zylstra was put on IR. Kirby Joseph, Sion Vaki, Brock Wright, Amon-Ra St. Brown are all questionable. Lions head coach Dan Campbell said that St. Brown won't practice Tuesday, but the wideout could still be available for Thursday's game against the Cowboys. My guess is he won't, but we'll see. The note on Kirby Joseph says Joseph has been sidelined since week 6 due to a knee injury, but the fourth-year safety intends to return in 2025 and seek treatment for his ankle during the offseason. So that's obviously terrible news for the much-beloved Kirby Joseph. That's sarcasm. Certainly doesn't sound like he's going to play. In fact, I saw a note, Freep, which is a Detroit Lions thing or whatever, Christian Mahogany, 100% playing in 2025. I mean, these are notes that do not sound conducive to he's definitely playing this week. Oh, yeah, he's playing in 2025 at some point. Granted, there's not much of 2025 left, but still, that's not what you would say if he'll be playing in 2 days. In addition to the Monday list, Kayode Awasika, the guard that is filling in for the injured Christian Mahogany, is questionable. And the big one, Penei Sewell, pops up as questionable with a shoulder injury and did not participate in Tuesday's practice. Sewell was not on the injury report Monday, but popped up with a shoulder injury Tuesday and did not practice. Meanwhile, left tackle Taylor Decker has also been listed with a DNP tag due to a shoulder issue Tuesday, after initially being listed as limited on Monday, though it's possible both tackles could play Thursday against the Cowboys without practicing. Any level of practice on Wednesday would provide some relief as it pertains to Jared Goff's blocking. So, I mean, do you get what I'm saying in terms of it's just a feeling? I mean, you lose to the Packers, that's massive. Not only does it suck because you got swept by the Packers, but now you are third in the division and your odds to make the playoffs have plummeted. Not just win the division, make the playoffs. Go ahead. No?
Someone is at the front
door. There you go. Getting a little slow in your old age. I'm on Raw about his status, says I'm not sure right now, if I'm being honest. It's still up in the air. I'm going to try to be out there for the guys, for my teammates, but I couldn't answer that question right now. Again, speculating, but it doesn't sound good. Even the Kirby Joseph update. All-pro safety Kirby Joseph is dealing with a nagging knee injury, which has kept him out of the lineup, but he intends to return to the field this season, and the injury is not considered career-altering, as some have speculated, per multiple sources. So people are out there talking about his career might be kind of screwed as a result of this. He's like, no, I'll be fine, and then I'll get it treated in the offseason. And then, by the way, after that, went and wiped his social media. He deleted his X account, his Instagram photos, in the midst of all the injury speculation. So people are out there talking about how his career might be over, and it's so bothersome to him that he just deletes his social media. On Monday, Joseph posted a story on his Instagram account that simply said, "God help me," in white letters and a black background. Joseph, who's typically active on social media, cleared his Instagram photos and deleted his X account. The article goes on to say these actions have left fans concerned about Joseph's mental health, along with potential new developments in his injury recovery. Did Joseph receive an update that his injury is possibly career-ending? According to Justin Rogers of the Detroit Football Network, there's nothing new. Joseph is merely taking a break from social media, saying it's just fatigue from injury talk and speculation. But again, the overall vibe here is as low as it's ever been since Dan Campbell took over as head coach. And that includes in the beginning, because then, I mean, obviously things were relatively low, but it was just kind of, yeah, we suck, and he's trying to get in there and be like, guys, we don't have to suck. It can be great. And it sounds like they all bought in. This is bad. Dan Campbell even said that Joseph is close to returning, but injuries may linger long term. So it's just one blow after another. And again, this all... It kind of started with the, well, I guess it didn't really start with, but the Frank Ragnow thing. Like that was like the great news. Like, oh, he's coming back for our playoff run and everything else. And you go into the Packer game and you get spanked by the Packers, and then Ragnow fails his thing after the social media already came out and been like, he's back, it's crazy. Turns out they hadn't even done their due diligence yet. That falls through. Your players are all injured. Your superstar wide receiver is injured. Your entire offensive line, which has been decimated already, continues to be further decimated. Your secondary is completely decimated. And your playoff hopes are all but dashed. And you have an up-and-coming Dallas team that's kind of getting hot at the right time. I mean, it's for them, it's just a race to the finish. Can we be good enough at 6-5-1 to even have a shot? But everything's going right for them because they're playing their best football right at the time when Philadelphia, who had this division locked up, is completely falling apart. And again, you pop on social media, and what's the first thing you see? Dallas is getting healthy, heading in the right direction. George Pickens, boy, oh boy, looking like he's going to be okay. He's going to be in that Thursday game. So we'll see. Maybe they come back fired up and ticked off, and Dallas comes into their house and they make a statement. I don't know. But it's going to take some mental fortitude that a lot of guys just don't have. And again, when you're seeing guys like Kirby Joseph, and granted, he's injured and, it's not like he's playing or anything, but just to give you an idea of the mental headspace, just shutting down all his socials, it's going to be hard to come out 100%. Okay, let's take a break. We got some Packers stuff to talk about, and we'll be right back. So before we delve into it, I do have the official, I decided to procrastinate a little bit. I have the official Detroit Lions injury report here. First of all, Dallas obviously has injuries as well, but nowhere near as extensive. Tyler Guyton, tackle, and Trayvon Diggs, significant, but those are the only two guys out. And then the only questionables are Malik Hooker, the safety, and Jadeveon Clowney, their outside linebacker. As for Detroit, questionable Sion Vaki, Amon-Ra, Penei Sewell, Graham Glasgow, Taylor Decker, Brian Branch, and Kayode Awasika, which again, we're talking 4 of their offensive linemen are questionable. I'm guessing most of them, if not all of them, play, but that's crazy. In addition, 2 tight ends are out, Shane Zylstra and Brock Wright. Khalif Raymond is out. Kirby Joseph is out. In addition, and also worth noting, I don't think Amon-Ra's playing. If he doesn't play, you're down 2 wide receivers, 2 tight ends, a starting safety, and you have 4 of your 5 offensive linemen questionable. That's freaking crazy. Since we're on the topic, Green Bay Packers. Might as well start with the injuries. That's not what I was planning, but that's fine. The official report is thusly. Packers, as always, have a very long list, but it's mostly guys that did participate, at least in limited fashion. For the Bears, though, much smaller list. Andrew Billings, defensive tackle, was a full participant. TJ Edwards, their linebacker, is limited with a hand and hamstring injury. Their linebacker, Ruben Hoplite, which I just think is a really crazy last name. I always think of him as just a friggin' Roman soldier or whatever. Did not participate with a shoulder injury. Jalen Johnson, their corner, was a full participant. Kyle Monangai popped up with an ankle injury and did not participate. There's a lot of talk about how the Bears coaching staff likes to let guys rest, and so it's kind of hard to determine, are they legitimately that banged up, or are you just giving them ample rest? Roma Dunze also did not participate with a foot injury. Dominique Robertson, full participant. Noah Sewell, full participant. Tyreek Stevenson, another DB, didn't participate with a hip injury. The Monangai thing is kind of a big deal, though. The rushing attack is something that I think everyone kind of agrees, whether you are in favor of the Bears and their resurgence and everything else, or are all in on the this team is fake thing. I think most people would acknowledge the run game is working, and most of that I think is attributed to the offensive line, but they've got a pretty good duo in running backs. If they were to lose one of them, that certainly would impact their ability to be able to beat the Packers. When you look at, on paper, what are the things that the Bears have to attack the Packers? The list might start and end with run the ball. Run the ball and pray for more picks. That's about it. The Roma Dunze injury is also, I don't want to overstate it, but it's clearly their top receiver. Ahead of DJ Moore, ahead of Luther Burden. He's been targeted 87 times. The next highest is DJ Moore at 58. So it's not even close. He's not necessarily playing at an elite level, but he is a talented receiver with a 72 receiving grade. If he can't go, as of right now, I just assume he will. I haven't really seen or heard anything that would make it seem serious, but I think we're also in the I don't know what's going on stage. But if they lose either of those two, it's pretty significant. Tyreek Stevenson also has been, one of their top corners in terms of time they've spent on the field. He didn't play last week, and obviously if he doesn't play again, it's a big deal, But we'll monitor that as time goes on. As for the Packers, I really wish this wasn't such small text. Let's see if we can make this a little bigger. All right. So today we had Jordan Love still with the left shoulder injury, but he was a full participant, which is obviously great news. He was the only one on the list that was a full participant. Let me just, for the sake of being obnoxious, count these. Let's call it roughly 17. I counted, and then I lost count, and then I counted again, and lost count again. But it's 17-ish. It's a big frickin' list, and it's very annoying. The good news, though, is that part of the reason it's a big list is because guys that have not been a part of our team are now on the injury report because they are potentially coming back soon. One of those guys is Brenton Cox. Brenton Cox has been a good football player for us. He had some really good depth to our edge group, and we just haven't had him around due to a groin injury. He is still limited with a groin injury, may not play this week, we don't know. But again, it ends up actually being good news that some of these guys are on here because before they weren't even on here because they were just off in IR land. Another is Marshawn Lloyd, the guy that I think we all kind of forgot about. I just saw a couple days ago or whenever it was first announced Marshawn Lloyd is back on the injury report. I was like, oh yeah, I forgot about that guy. I'm still excited about him. I have no reason not to be. My son was down here and I was mentioning that he was on here. I had to remind him who he was, and he's like, well, is he good? I'm like, pfft. I mean, we drafted him early. You know what I mean? And otherwise, I have no idea. I really don't, but I hope he is. I hope he's good. The other guy, another guy, I should say, not the other, because there's more, Colin Oliver. If you remember, he's a draft pick, a very unusual draft pick. We talked about this a lot closer to draft time. This is not something the Packers would have normally done, but it seems like some teams, and Jeff Hafley being one of the people that have of similar mind, are starting to look at these types of pass rushers, which are the really small speed guys. And it's funny because you can see the ebb and flow of this. Speed edge rushers were all the rage for a long time in the Clay Matthews era. And then it got to the point where you didn't want that anymore. You wanted the big guys, the 265, 270 edge rushers. Well, now, one of the things that's being mentioned is these quarterbacks are so good at getting the ball out of their hands, the Rashawn Garys of the world, good pass rushers, but these are guys that'll get there in 2.8 seconds, but they're never going to get there in 2.3, partially because of ability, but mostly because they're bull rushers. He's going to get inside the guy's chest and push him into the quarterback. He's very good at it, but you're not going to get speed rushing out of him. Very rarely will you get that. Now, there's limitations to guys like Colin Oliver. But the benefit is, the other guy obviously being Micah Parsons. I don't know if there's anybody in the world better at speed rushing. His 0 to 60 is stupid. But Colin Oliver is another guy that can provide that. And he's kind of an inside-outside hybrid type of a guy that I think over time they'd like, I shouldn't even say over time. Ideally, if things work out, which there's a low probability. I think he's like a 6th-round pick or something. But in a perfect world, we cross-train him as an inside linebacker as well as a defensive end, outside linebacker, pass rusher. And I just saw recently one of the plays, they've been dropping Micah a little bit more, which obviously everybody sees that and thinks, oh, crap. But it's funny because one of the times I had mentioned that was the time they dropped him and they immediately got a sack. And I forgot who it was, but one of the guys doing a little film breakdown thing showed the benefit of that. And it was crazy. We ended up forcing a 3-on-1 where they had 3 offensive linemen dedicated to one because we vacated the area where Micah Parsons was. He drops into coverage. He has speed unlike just about anybody on our team, so he's able to get to the tight end almost instantly, and it also causes us to have some free rushers. So it's just stupid. But, the benefit being Colin Oliver can be one of those guys. If you were to, for example, drop Micah Parsons and send Colin Oliver, who has got, some really good speed as far as edge rushers go, you can you can do some stuff with that. So I don't know that he really has an impact this year. I don't know how much they really want to throw him in there, especially if we get guys like Brenton Cox back. I don't know. And Van Ness, hopefully at some point. That's kind of a disaster scenario we'll talk about. But I think long-term Colin Oliver is interesting. And I think it's kind of the same with Marshawn Lloyd. There's a lot of pessimism about whether Marshawn Lloyd's going to be in. I don't know if his injuries are going to persist, but long term, I'm still intrigued. I just think we're so late in the season. We'll have to see. How that goes. Then is our boy Jaden Reed. He was limited with a foot injury, foot/shoulder, obviously with the collarbone. But don't have any official word on that. Don't know if it's probably going to be dragged out. We may not get Reed back this week. But either way, again, it's very good to see these guys on the list, to know that, 17 of these or whatever are, of the 17, 4 of them are actually good news of guys returning. In addition, on the injury report, we got Carl Brooks limited with an ankle injury, Javon Bullard limited with an ankle injury, Edrin Cooper limited with a shoulder injury, Matthew Golden limited with a wrist injury, Nate Hobbs limited with a knee injury, Josh Jacobs limited with a knee injury, Baron Sorrell limited with an ankle, Zach Tom limited with a back, Quay limited with a neck injury, and Wicks limited with an ankle injury. In addition, 3 players of the 17-ish did not participate. Devontae Wyatt, who is soon to be put on IR, kind of been through this a few times this year, but essentially the reason these things don't happen immediately is because they just don't need to. I don't know why. I guess, I don't know. But when we need the spot, he'll get moved. Just don't feel like doing the paperwork, I guess. I don't know. Also, Savion Williams did not participate with his foot injury. If you remember, he was in a boot a couple weeks ago, even though he freaking played. And then Lucas Van Ness. And again, I don't know, but I feel like these things keep coming up so often that I can't help but at least ask the question or speculate whether we are way too aggressive with bringing our guys back. We brought back our kicker, and then he ended up having to go out, right? And then we brought back Savion, and then he is not coming back anytime soon. We bring back Lucas Van Ness. He plays 6 snaps. Not only is he have to go immediately off the field due to injury, he's not able to come back the next week. Then we find out dude's in a boot. So it's actually quite bad. Apparently something doesn't seem right, and so they're actually going to go backwards and kind of reset him a little bit, as opposed to getting him ready to play. They're back in the rehab phase for Lucas Van Ness. And look, I understand that you want to err on, I don't know. I understand there's some level of aggression, let me put it that way, in terms of coming back. I understand football is a tough guy sport for tough guys, and there is an element of suck it up, man up, and do your job. And I think that that's good and whatnot, but I also just wonder if we're just not doing a good enough job of identifying situations where I appreciate you want to get out there, you're not ready. And I can't put that on Matt LaFleur as much as the training staff. And I know we just hired a new training staff, so I hate to keep ragging on it when we just replaced it and it doesn't seem to be fixing anything. But, at the end of the day, you have a job. And in large part, your job is to assess, the medical staff, assess the players, assess the injuries, and make determinations on, are you able to come back? So, for example, if it's Lucas Van Ness, you look at the injury, whether it's x-rays or whatever it is you have to do, and you say, based on how massive you are and the amount of force you're going to put on this foot, you either should or should not be able to go out there and play. Dude made it 6 snaps before his foot frickin' broke or whatever happened. You're telling me that we couldn't have known that? Sounds like he wasn't even close. I mean, maybe he tweaked it or something real hard in some weird kind of a way, but it doesn't sound like it. The way they're talking about it, like I went out there and played and something just didn't feel right. Okay. I don't know. But the setbacks are really... I'll bring it up again. We borderline lost the entire 2024 season because of this. We had an injured quarterback, and those things happened. It was a crap field, all that stuff. We brought him back too early because of some Vikings game. I think it was a Vikings, where it felt like, oh, it's a divisional game. We got to be this, that, or the other. And the Vikings were not super good. And Jordan wasn't ready and wasn't playing well. And Malik could have handled that situation just fine, where we should have had the forethought to say, yeah, it's a divisional game and we need to take those seriously. But we have a bunch of other divisional games coming up that I'd like to win, and I don't want to hurt quarterback trying to get through those games. Remember when I said before that aggression is not always the right solution? That it's not just inherently good, no matter the circumstance? This would be one of those situations. So I don't know when we see Van Ness. I don't know. All I know is Van Ness was having a fantastic year. It's looking like he was going to be our edge 2 behind Micah. He was going to have a breakout year and all this stuff. Not to what degree, I don't know, but he was looking fantastic. And that's being squandered might be too harsh of a term because I don't know, but boy, is it frustrating. I guess it's encouraging that we're not talking IR at this point, but then again, they're not even putting Wyatt on IR, so how would we know if that was a thought? I don't know. But not IR means presumably they expect him back within the next few weeks. Potentially this week, but I mean it's looking very unlikely, and it just has not been good news, like at all, ever. So not the most encouraging. All right, let's take our final break, and we'll do other stuff. We'll be right back. All right, as per usual, just as the news flows in, a couple things before we move on here. Update on the Roma Dunze thing. Apparently, this happens all the time with him missing like the first day, and then he's back by the next day, and everything's fine. So unless he's out on Thursday, that's really no news at all. Something else we really need to keep an eye on is Jaden Daniels. Head coach Dan Quinn told reporters earlier this week that Daniels has not yet been cleared for contact. He was, however, ripping throws in Dan Quinn's own words. He may need to be upgraded to full participant in practice before getting the green light to return to action. Washington is playing Minnesota, and again, I'm kind of hoping Minnesota wins. I'm thinking they probably won't, but Jaden Daniels, if he doesn't play, is going to help the cause. And there goes Darius Slay, who was claimed by the Buffalo Bills, so that was a fun little conversation for 5 minutes. On the other side of the Vikings things, J.J. McCarthy is practicing in full for Week 14 against the Commanders, and I think we're once again caught up. All right. Now on to some, hold on. I don't know why that got turned down. On to some Packers news. Some of this is a little bit dated, but it's worth mentioning because we haven't gotten there yet. First of all, both Packers-Bears games, for obvious reasons, given the severity of these games, have been flexed. So we already knew about the upcoming game was flexed to the afternoon slot, 3:25 here at Central Time. However, the Week 16 matchup, Packers-Bears, was announced. I don't know if you'd call it flex because I don't know if it had it was TBD, so I don't know. Bottom line is, it was pushed to the 7:20 p.m. late night game. This is not Sunday night; it's technically Saturday night, but it's a nighttime prime time game. So Packers-Bears, I think any way you slice it. I was just on a Bears podcast just a minute ago. I had to stop this and go over there. But one of the points that I had made was, regardless of what happens in this game, first of all, one fan base is going to be miserable. But that exact fan base in 2 weeks is going to be back here saying this Packers-Bears game is massive and it's going to determine what, the division, the playoffs, all that stuff. Any way you slice it, even if, the Packers win this week and next week and the Bears lose this week and next week, we're still, the game is still massive with potential to, if they win and then win next week and you lose and lose next week, kind of screwed. So it just goes to show that these are obviously going to be massive games. And we know that. We know every game from here on out. And they're all tough games, by the way. I mean, we get through this and win this and we feel like we won the Super Bowl. And we got the Denver freaking Broncos, which is absolutely no walk in the park. And then you have Chicago in Chicago, which I'm sure is not going to be a walk in the park. And then you got the Baltimore Ravens. I mean, it's tough. I just hope that by the time we get to Minnesota, it matters. In other minor news, the Packers worked out several players. There's a ton of things going on with all the, releasing this player, bringing in this player, a lot of weird stuff going on. But the Packers worked out the following players, this via Jason Hirschhorn: offensive lineman Carson Barnhart, defensive lineman Ross Blacklock, which I'm always amazed when I see that guy. I remember there were so many Packer fans convinced that was the guy. We needed to pick him, late first, early second round guy. He was the answer. And he very quickly got into the NFL, went to 0, and now is struggling to find a team to be on. Anyways, defensive lineman Omar Brown, offensive lineman Caleb Etienne, nose tackle Isaiah Rakes, and DB Mike Reed. As for actual movement, the Packers did sign cornerback Shamar Bartholomew to the practice squad and released cornerback Tyron Herring and wide receiver Michael Woods from the practice squad via Rob Domofsky. Some details on the Packers' newest Green Bay Packer. He is a 2024 undrafted free agent out of Georgia Southern. As far as his regular season snaps, he's only played 17 regular season snaps. That was in 2024 Week 8 for the Carolina Panthers. So the Jets picked him up. By Week 18, he's with the Panthers playing 17 snaps. Had a 55 grade. As far as the preseason goes, he graded out really high in 2024, which is perhaps why, he was likable. Had an 85 coverage grade, 83 run defense grade, 87 overall, and that's across 81 snaps in 3 different games. So it's not a super small sample size. However, with Carolina in 2025, he did not grade out very well. So Packers, obviously, this is some bottom of the roster shuffling stuff. We've seen enough of this guy. Let's get a look at this guy. People they've had on these lists to see, see if they can do some stuff. Let's see what we can get out of them. And again, I always tend to want to roll my eyes at this stuff as being nothing and nothing will ever come of it. But there have been instances of, and we've gone over these lists. I can picture them. I can't think of the tight end we had. But, these guys that we bring in to the practice squad end up getting elevated and end up playing a decent role for us. You never know. The somewhat bigger news as far as roster movement is that we put Will Shepherd back on the practice squad and added Jordan Riley, defensive tackle, to our active roster from the Giants. So that's kind of a big deal. We plucked a guy off another team's practice squad, and he is now on the active roster. So somebody we definitely need to be more familiar with. And I really thought getting a new cable was going to fix whatever the problem is, but we're still having those issues. I apologize if you're hearing popping, fuzzing nonsense. I don't know what's causing that. But defensive tackle Jordan Riley was a 2023 7th-round pick. But he is a big boy. I'm guessing they are hoping he can help with the run defense, even though his run defense grades are terrible. But PFF lists him at 6'5", 325. I got the AIs saying somewhere between 315 and 338. So the fluctuations are pretty wild from big to massive. Known for his size and strength. Came out of Oregon. However, he spent 6 years across 4 different schools. North Carolina, 2017-18. Garden City Community College. Kind of took a step backwards so that he can get more playing time. Then he went to Nebraska, 2020 to 2021. 2021, he was in 10 games, 7 tackles, 1 tackle for a loss while earning Big Ten All-Academic honors. You know how Gutekunst love those big brain guys. And then 2022 is when he was in Oregon, transferred his final year, started all 13 games, posting 21 tackles, 1.5 tackles for a loss, 0.5 sacks, and 1 pass breakup. 2023 with the Giants, he had a 52 PFF grade. 2024, it went down to a 49.7. 2025, it went down to a 37.7. So, it is what it is, I guess. I don't know what to tell you. They seem to like him and think he can help us get the job done. And so, sometimes I assume there are certain things that GMs, coaches, whatever, want in a player that maybe PFF either doesn't capture or doesn't appreciate in kind of ways. I've talked about this with hyper-athletic linebackers that are always on teams and always getting big paychecks that PFF always gives like 30 grades to. I don't know if it has to do with what it does for everybody else around there or what the situation is, but we'll see. Obviously, the Packers are concerned about our ability to stop the run, and are going to see what Jordan Riley can do for us. All right, well, I had some other kind of bigger topics to talk about, but I think given the time, we'll probably leave it at that as just a pure news and notesy day, and we can worry about this stuff another time. But I'm going to get out of here. Y'all have a good rest of your day. I'll talk to you tonight, tomorrow, whatever. Have a good one. Bye-bye.